Hello everybody, my name is Natalia Leigh and I am the author of the young adult novels Highborn and Way of Spears, and Nanowrimo season is officially upon us. It is October, which means there is less than a month before Nanowrimo begins. And today I'm going to share with you the method that I use to come up with novel ideas and story ideas when I have no idea what I want to write. So let's get started. So sometimes story ideas will just hit you and you know exactly what you want to write. You have fully formed characters in your head, you see beautiful settings, and all these scenes are played out before you. And if that happens, it's fantastic. I have had that happen to me before. Actually, one of my novels, Way of Spears, was prompted by a dream that I had. It was just one scene in a dream, and I knew what I wanted to write. But that doesn't happen very often. So if you do not know what you want to write yet, then I am here to help you, because I'm going to share the method that I use when I am really stuck to come up with novel ideas. So if you already have my Preptober workbook, then go ahead and turn to page 3. But if you do not have my Preptober workbook, it's totally fine, no problem. Just grab yourself a pen and a piece of paper and let's get started. So we want to come up with a story idea that you are really going to love and that you're going to be able to stick with. Nanowrimo is difficult, okay? I'm not going to lie to you. It is hard to write 50,000 words in a month, but it is absolutely doable. And having a story idea that really inspires you and pumps you up and makes you want to write will really help you cross that finish line into the 50,000 word realm. All right, first up, I want you to start by making a list of your favorite movies, novels, folktales, etc. So the purpose of this is that I want you to get a closer look at your favorite stories so that you can start breaking them down and figuring out why those are your favorite stories. Some of my favorites include The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater, The Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater, Twilight by Stephanie Meyer, the movie Troy, the movie Brave, and The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. When I start breaking these down, I can start seeing similar aspects between the different movies and books. So for example, we have Twilight and The Scorpio Races. Both of those have fantasy elements in them. The Scorpio Races is about kind of man-eating horses that come out of the sea. And Twilight is, of course, about vampires. And both of those have a very kind of magical, mysterious feeling to them, which I will get to later. And that's one of the reasons that I love those. All right, next up, we are going to write out a list of moods. And when I say mood, I want you to think about what you feel when you're reading those favorite books or when you're watching your favorite movies. For example, when I am watching Brave, which is one of my very favorite movies, I get this feeling of magic and of history, and it makes me want to listen to like Irish, Scottish, Gaelic kind of music, Celtic music. And this is a mood that it puts me in. It makes me feel a certain way. So when you're looking back on all of those stories that you wrote down for the story box, think about what mood all of those put you in, and then start writing all of those moods down. Some of my moods include magical, mysterious, dark, whimsical, and then I wrote fairy tale because I like the feeling of watching something or reading something that makes me feel like I'm in a fairy tale or makes me feel like I'm in a folk tale. I really enjoy that. And enjoying that feeling of like whimsy and being in a fairy tale is part of what really inspired me to write Song of the DRYAD. So you're going to start seeing how, personally for me, a lot of the aspects of Song of the DRYAD or Way of Spears will be included in these lists that I'm making, because this is kind of a master list. You can continue coming back to these things to come up with more and more and more story ideas. This isn't just going to help you with one. This can help you many, many times. All right, now that you are done writing out all the moods that your favorite stories make you feel and that you are interested in kind of evoking in a reader, it is time to move on to genre. So if you don't know what genre you want to write in, maybe you've never written a book before, this is your very first book and you don't really know which way to go, then look back at the list of your favorite stories and look at what those genres are. Most of mine are young adult, and a lot of them have to do with fantasy or urban fantasy. I do enjoy contemporary, but I prefer a hint of magic in all of my books. So for genre, I wrote down young adult, new adult, urban fantasy, romance, because I love when there's kind of a side plot of romance versus the main plot, and also adventure. If you are still stuck, then I would recommend looking at your bookshelf nearby, picking out some of your favorite books, and then looking to see what genres those are in. If you have primarily romance on your shelves, then maybe you want to try writing a romance novel. Or if you have primarily thriller novels on your shelves, then maybe you want to try writing a thriller for Nanowrimo. So not everybody writes in the genre that they enjoy reading, but many people do. If you really enjoy reading stories of a certain genre, then you will probably enjoy writing one of those stories as well. Next up, it is time to work on the settings box. And again, remember, if you do not have the workbook, it's okay, just write settings with a line under it and you are good to go. So I want you to think about what settings kind of inspire you to write, or what kind of settings would you like to explore some more? So some of the settings that I wrote down in my box are mountains, forests, castles, boarding school, nature, small villages, a post-apocalyptic world, foggy woods, and rainy or snowy weather. So again, I'm going to look at this and I'm going to say, okay, forests. I wrote about forests in Song of the Dryad. I also wrote about rainy or snowy weather, and I wrote about foggy woods because I'm really interested in all of those settings, and they came to life in Song of the Dryad. Let me look at Way of Spears. Again, I wrote about forests, I wrote about mountains, I wrote about a small village. So you can continue coming back to these things that you really love and build many, many, many stories off of them. This is kind of your foundation. I look at it as my foundation because anytime I want to write a new novel, I can come back to these lists and I can come back to what inspires me and I can get new ideas just by looking at all of this laid out. All right, once you have finished writing all of your settings down that you would like to write about, it is time to move on to characters. And you can do this a couple different ways. The first way you can do this is make a list of your favorite characters and then make a list of some of their qualities. For example, maybe Katniss Everdeen from The Hunger Games is one of your very favorite characters. And some of her characteristics might be brave, protective, a good older sister, strong, independent, or maybe Harry Potter is one of your favorite characters. And maybe you're really interested in him because he's brave, because he is an orphan and he has overcome such tremendous grief and loss. So that is the first option here, is to write down a list of the names of your favorite characters and then write down some of their characteristics. And then the second option is to write down types of characters that you really enjoy reading about. And this is what I did. So some of mine are warriors, strength, witches, shamans, outcasts, rebels, the monarchy, siblings, and a power couple. So these are some of the characters that I really love to read about. Like, personally, I am just fascinated by monarchies and kings and queens and like the power struggle within a system like that. I also really love reading about siblings. I myself have a younger sister, so it's really interesting for me to read about how other siblings work together and what their relationships are like. So those are your two different options. Again, either write down names of characters that you love and their characteristics, or write down types of characters that you are interested in writing about. So when you are building characters to inhabit this novel that you're going to write, you can look back at this master list and say, oh, I really want to explore what it would be like for two siblings to be separated. Or I really want to explore what it would be like for a younger sister to always be overshadowed by her older brother. And by having these lists, it really helps you build a novel that will be perfect for you. And that is going to help you write 50,000 words in November. Because again, if you are writing a novel that you're not that into or that interested in, it's going to be way more difficult to hit 50K than it would be if you were writing something that had all of these characteristics of a story that you really love. All right, so if you have the workbook, your 5 boxes will be filled, but I'm actually going to give you a few more categories to fill out. So you can either grab a separate sheet of paper or maybe just write small in the margins or next to the boxes on the second level, because now we are going to write down some relationships that you would be interested in writing about. Siblings would be an interesting one, for me at least. That's what I like writing about. I would also write down positive parent and child relationships. So by writing these down, you can take the characters, right, that you just wrote down for your previous category and start linking them together through these relationships that you want to explore. All right, there's one more to go. So the next category that I would like you to fill out is experiences and skills. And this is going to be a personal thing, because if you have a skill, then you're going to be able to write about it much more realistically. So for example, one of the skills that I would write down might be archery, because I have my own bow and I love to go out shooting and I know more about it because I've actually done it. I've, taken lessons, I've gone to shooting ranges, I've watched a lot of videos, so that would be one skill for me. Another one of my skills would be horsemanship. I started working, with horses when I was around 7 years old. And while I was in college, I actually lived on a farm and I managed a barn and I was a horseback riding instructor. So horsemanship is something that I can write about very realistically because I know it so well. Maybe for you, you've been a chef before, or you know what it's like to be a waitress. Like, I've never been a waitress before, so I cannot realistically write about the experiences that a waitress would have. So make a list of these experiences and skills that you have, because when you return to this list, you can say, all right, these are all the things that I know all too well, and I can write about them very realistically, and I would like to put that in my book. Okay, my friends, so you should have a master list now. You should have a list of stories, moods, genres, settings, characters, what else? Your experiences / skills, and then relationships. So there should be 7 categories that are all filled out. Now I want you to read back over these, kind of take a step back if you need to. And this master list is going to help you come up with story ideas. So I'm going to pick mine up. I have mine right here. And looking at mine, let's see, stories that I like: Raven Boys, Scorpio Races, Twilight, Troy, Brave, and The Hunger Games. So a lot of those have magic, a lot of those have adventure. So maybe I want to write an adventure story based in a fantasy-esque world. Maybe there are dragons, maybe there's magic and witches and witchcraft. Let's see, moods: magical, mysterious, dark, whimsical. All that would fit really well with an adventure novel with magic and like dragons tossed in there. Settings, let's see, foggy woods, small village out in nature. So maybe I'm writing about a very small mountain town in kind of a historical-esque world where they raise dragons and magic is real. Characters: warriors, I like strength, outcasts, rebels, a monarchy. Maybe there's a ruling monarchy that wants to steal the dragons that this small village is raising and training in this magical world. And the warriors have to prevent the monarchy from coming in and stealing their dragons. So see how I'm just going through each category and I'm saying, oh, maybe I could take this setting and then I could take this character and this genre, and I can start forming all of these together, all of these separate ideas. I can start formulating into one novel idea. So now that you have all of these written down, it's time to get all of your ideas in one place and start brainstorming novel ideas. So for those of you that have the workbook, go ahead and turn the page. We want to be on page 4. For those of you that do not have the workbook, again, it's fine. Just pull out an extra sheet of paper or turn the page in your journal, because it's time to start brainstorming novel ideas. So continue to flip back and forth between the categories and the kind of master list that you just made, and then your brainstorming novel ideas page, because you're going to be using both of these together. Every time you pull a few things from the list together, write that down as a potential novel idea. Again, I really quickly just came up with historical world, dragons, and a small village in the woods. I would write those things down, and that could be a potential novel idea. And then I would just have to build on that, build on it, think of a problem, create the premise, and then I would have my novel idea and I could continue to plot and plan it out. All right, my friends, so I really hope that this video helped you out. I hope that you have that big master list next to you now and you can start kind of puzzle piecing your novel ideas together. And remember, if you have not already picked up your Preptober workbook, all it takes is a donation of any size, whatever you are comfortable with donating, and you will get your 30-page October 2017 Preptober workbook, and it is going to help you plan and plot a novel to write in November 2017. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. Again, I really hope that this video and this master list helps you at least start coming up with some novel ideas. If not, don't worry about it. Continue looking at this list. We still have time to prepare for Nanowrimo. And remember, if you have any questions for me, please drop them in the comments below. Send me an email, whatever you are most comfortable with. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. Remember to leave any requests for Nanowrimo prep videos in the comments below, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!